In society, we have the rise of the Karens, individuals who believe that they're owed more than what they've paid for, people who belittle other people, who dehumanize the workforce, who treat service staff like they're not humans. This is an epidemic in our society. One of the things that drives me crazy in life is whenever people treat other people like garbage. Like somehow just because you're paying for a service that gives you the right to hurt other people. And you see this everywhere. I was at a craft store not too long ago, and I was waiting, and there was no one standing around the area. There was this other older woman who was standing there, and she got there a little bit after I did, and within the first like 20 or 30 seconds, suddenly she's huffing and puffing. There's a little bell that's on the little table with the cutting board area, and she rings it. Bing. Then after about a minute goes by, bing. After about 20 seconds, bing. After about 10 seconds, bing. And then she just starts ringing it. Bing, 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 bing. And I turned to the lady. I said, "Lady, will you stop?" And she paused, and she looked at me like she was mortally offended. How dare I ask her not to ring a bell incessantly? She says, "What, do you work here?" I said, "No, but I do care about my ears, and what you're doing is disrespectful. They'll be here when they get here. If you really want them, go and find them." She went quiet. I'm certain that everyone else around was thankful that they didn't have to listen to this old lady act like a child with a temper tantrum, ringing this bell over and over and over, getting angry at these people working at the craft store for not being there immediately to be at their beck and call. The Karens of our society are unreasonable, and the Karen can be a man or a woman. They're just people who don't care about other people, people who think that they are the center of the universe, and they are the blight of our society. You don't deserve anything and even if you have earned it, it doesn't mean that you're going to get it. Sure, you may be the paying customer, but the people working there are people too. And whenever you begin to strip out this idea that other people aren't people and that you deserve something special just because you are you, then you have a serious malfunction. And you're contributing to the overall detriment of society. No wonder people are so miserable working at most places. The world doesn't owe you something just because you hurt. We all hurt. And I have compassion for you if your existence is miserable. I understand what it's like to be at levels of pain that are unreasonable. But it's still, and even in those moments, unless you're in the hospital and you're on some kind of drugs that makes you crazy, or you're howling in pain because you've been opened up in ways that the body's not meant to be opened up, then you need to treat other people like they're people. And sure, we all make mistakes. But if you're going through life destroying people with your bitterness, your selfishness. Now, there's a trait that I like to call a healthy dose of not giving a fucktitude. I think that's healthy. But the problem is that there's another part of that. There are people who have the not giving the fucktitude attitude, while at the same time not giving a fuck about you, or anyone for that matter. Can't go through life thinking that people are there for your entertainment, that are there just to serve you. And maybe you don't believe that, but it's the way that you act, and that's not okay. Because in reality, negativity begets negativity. The more bad that you pour into the world, the more the world pours it back into you. And just because you give goodness, it doesn't mean that you're going to receive sunshine and lollipops throughout your day. But it sure helps. Just imagine how much better the world would be if we didn't have people sitting behind their keyboards trying to cancel others throughout the day. Think about how wonderful life could be if everyone wasn't embracing victimization. If instead they sought out to learn from their horrors and pain, and then sought to help others gain from the wisdom that they collected from their journey. Wallowing in your own misery only leads you to greater misery. Now, what do I know, right? What do I know? I mean, you don't know me, but I know absolute pain. There are two events in my life that have been instrumental. For a long time, the number one, most important, greatest blessing of my existence was getting cancer. It was the absolute most horrific and horrible experience of my life, but I love it immeasurably. It transformed me. And I don't talk about it much, but in the context of this, it's important because I learned in that journey that it doesn't matter how much pain that you feel. Your pain doesn't trump the pain of others. It doesn't matter. Only the most unwise will believe that their pain is greater than anyone else's. And those are usually the most abusive, the most horrible people. Now, I've had my lung removed. I know what it's like to go out without painkiller for 2 hours after my lung was removed. When I was in the ICU, I went through chemotherapy. I watched my mind deteriorate before my eyes. But even then, my pain is no greater than yours. We have both suffered. We both feel pain. We're all bumbling through life the same. It's just like whenever I'm on the highway and someone cuts me off, instead of getting angry and throwing the bird, you know what? I just I calm down and I say, you know what? What if that person is in a state of horror right now? You know, it's easy to assume that, you know, they're just wanting to drive fast and be a jerk. But what if that's not the case? What if they're racing to get to the hospital to see their wife, their son, their daughter, their husband one final time? And when you look at life that way, whenever you see that maybe they're not actually trying to hurt you, life gets a little better. So when you have these Karens sitting around in a craft store waiting like the world is coming to an end just because a clerk hasn't come to them within a few minutes, and they start ringing the bell and then huffing and puffing. Just imagine how much nicer, how much more beautiful that experience would have been if she just took a breath and maybe had a conversation with the people near them, or took into the scope of reality that this piece of fabric that she's buying isn't going to be the end of the world. And in the sum of your existence, if 5 minutes is pretty meaningless, if that time was really that important, what are you doing at the craft store? If you really hate standing in lines and waiting, you could go online and order all this stuff. If you hate people that much, why are you around them? Your pain and your bitterness, that's a responsibility that you have with yourself. And other people shouldn't have to pay that price. It doesn't give you the right to treat others like garbage. Our society is so selfish, so self-absorbed. One of the greatest things that I learned whenever I went through cancer was I learned I wasn't the main character of the story. And that was beautiful. I mean, that was liberating. We're all in a beautiful epic where we are all secondary characters to each other. And in reality, the most important character is relationships. It's an idea. It's how we treat each other. That's what's most important. It's the story of how we interact with one another. It's the legacy that we leave. It's the goodness that we give. And if you're navigating through life and all you give is bitterness and bad, you're not the main character. And it's definitely not a narrative about a hero. If you are moving through life, destroying the lives of others and beating other people down, you are the villain. You are the villain. Good people give for the sake of giving goodness. You want to be special? Break the mold. How do you break the mold? Well, you stop acting like the pieces of garbage that we run across every day. You stop listening to everything that the media has to tell you. And this is not a diatribe about conspiracy theories and none of that crap, but instead the raw negative emotion that is infused into you through every media source that we look at. The constant inundation of the pure, icky sickness that we're forced to eat every day. I understand. I mean, how are you supposed to know what's going on in the world if you don't pay attention? But there's other ways. And really, what does it matter what's going on 5,000 miles from where you are? You can't do anything about it. I mean, our whole system is designed, or our whole environment, let's put it that way. Our whole environment is just, is horrible. But it doesn't have to be. You know, just like in The Terminator, your fate is what you make it. You have a lot of influence over your life. You have a lot of influence about how others around you feel. You can take someone's day and transform it. I mean, simply by sitting with someone and listening to them talk about their day, you can help them alchemize their pain. It's like sorcery. I mean, the magic of life is through relationships. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much to help someone feel marvelous. You know, and I do my best to use the most positive words that I can through life. Because every word that you say, you have to internalize and you have to experience it. And then others, they have to internalize it and experience it. So if you met me on the street and we met for the first time and you said, "Hey, how you doing? How was your day going?" I aim to say, spectacularly amazing, incredibly fantastic, immeasurably wonderful. Because you can change your day. And when you use these spectacular words, when you're good to other people, when you give goodness for the sake of goodness, it is the greatest tool to battle bitterness, to battle the bad feelings you may have. Your hurt doesn't have to be horrific, and you don't have to force others to eat it. Feed the people around you goodness, and you will see that hurt and all that sorrow melt away. Life is beautiful. And it's beautiful in all moments of our existence. There is infinite beauty in the snapshot of every second. There is so much detail to everything. It is beyond your mortal brain. There's no way to truly perceive it all. And in its magnitude, that is incredible. That is awe-inspiringly amazing. When you take the moments to understand the enormity and the miracle of existence, you take the moment to empathize with others and their circumstance, to create a story or a narrative that helps humanize them, the world becomes a richer place. Everything doesn't have to be horror. Everything doesn't have to be hurt. We don't have to pass away to go to heaven. We can make it here. We can make our own best days. And we do that by living in the most wonderful way.